Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for an invasion. The comics market is in crisis, a crisis that we can and must exploit for the holy virtues of creativity, capitalism, and culture. In the one short week since our Death and Hope Diamond video, the updates have been pouring in. Some of the oldest comic shops on the continent closed their doors forever, succumbing to failure and on their way out, pointing the blame at Marvel. Desperate comic retailers finally lashed out against Marvel's gimmicky shakedowns, signing on to an unprecedented boycott. Rumors are swirling at Screen Geek that behind the scenes, Marvel sales are so catastrophic that the Disney overlords are sharpening their axes. Castalia House, reporting on all this, reveals that the hit YouTube channel Diversity in Comics may transition from deconstructing Marvel to outright competing with them. And of course, the Comics Whisperer is still nowhere to be found. Throughout all this, retailers are afraid of mass closings, and whether you blame Marvel's apocalyptic performance on milkshake-guzzling, vacuous hipsters, or simply decades of recycling stale ideas, one thing is clear. They've been sowing poison seeds, and it looks like it's time to reap the harvest. Like Libya after the fall of its ironclad dictatorship, chaos is coming. The comic shop direct market will become totally destabilized. And in this environment, with fracturing power structures and shifting realities on the ground, a small, organized, highly motivated force can strike with outsized impact. So, gear up. We're going to make comics great again. In the past, comic shops in general formed a rigid closed circuit with the monopolistic diamond distribution. Stores could survive suckling on Mama Marvel's mandatory rations, so that's what they did. They generally shut out competition because it was just easier to go with the flow. By and large, retailers complacently left the entirety of mainstream comics culture in the trustworthy hands of Marvel's editorial staff. But things are different now, right now. Retailers are discovering they can no longer passively sign off on Marvel's product line and expect to keep their doors open. Pure necessity is jolting them awake. Well, the ones that are still open, and now they have two choices. One, cross their fingers and pray for a miracle, or two, open up to some new possibilities. So let's make some possibilities. First off, creators and publishers, you deserve to be in stores. Your work is every bit as good and vastly more original than the stuff Marvel is no longer capable of selling. You, making that hit webcomic, running that record-smashing Kickstarter, you grew up in a world where you never questioned why comic shops nationwide didn't know about your work, didn't stock it, didn't serve your local customers. Comic shops have been so dysfunctional for so long that they probably weren't even on your radar. Well, consider this your blip. You forged a career with your own time and talent without any support whatsoever from a viable retail market. Well, imagine what your career would look like if nationwide store placement and mainstream recognition were added to the mix. Now, retailers, you deserve a slice of that juicy crowdfunding market pie. Perhaps this is the first time you've heard that phrase, crowdfunding market. I'm sorry to say, you've been missing out. No wonder you're hungry. Crowdfunding readers are the next generation of consumers. They want variety, they want novelty, they want creative authenticity, and they have found it. And it's not on your shelves. Yet. Readers, you deserve a world where, shocking idea, the market actually cares about what you want. The whole thing is supposed to be for you, after all. If you're tired of Marvel editors blocking you online and heaping contempt upon your interests, if you're tired of your stores disappearing and having nowhere to browse or nothing worth browsing, then it's time to take control. The ultimate power in the market rests with you and you alone. You're the customer. If you organize and you want something to happen, you can make it happen. Make this comic market yours again. And subcultures. You want to break the corporate stranglehold that takes away your entertainment and replaces it with homogeneous, bland propaganda? You want a chance to share something thought-provoking, to carve out a corner of culture where you won't be blacklisted and shamed just for having a slightly divergent opinion? Well, this is where it starts. Comics are, like no other medium, accessible. You can't sit down and crank out a Hollywood blockbuster, but anyone can sit down and draw anything. And once a book is on the shelf, No algorithm in Twitter's arsenal can keep a reader from reaching out and reading. Comics are the crucible for pop culture. More and more often, they're serving as the springboard for films and television. Ideas start in comics, and the comic market is the cradle of innovation for cultural content. So if you want to reclaim some cultural relevance, the place is here and the time is now. Stores are in crisis. If you really have content you advocate for and a following that is being suppressed by the status quo, then get that content and that following into these stores. Drive sales. Prop them up. Make your content the leg that saves the wobbling table, and they'll have to keep it. This is your chance to crack the cultural monopoly and claim a beachhead for yourself. Take aim. All this opportunity in the comics direct market for creators, retailers, readers, and subcultures has one big obstacle. Because it's not enough to offer better content, there's a massive gatekeeper suppressing it. Diamond Comics distribution. Every comic shop is locked inside the Diamond Monopoly cage. The company is literally built to give the Big Four, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and Image, the power to erase competition. Minimum profit benchmarks, rigged placement in their previews order catalog. Diamond even penalizes outsider companies with inferior discount structures. The barriers they put in place are rigid. Retailers can't get out, and new blood can't get in. I elaborate more on Diamond in my Death and Hope video, and plan to do another video about the history of Diamond, but for now, it's enough to know that Diamond is an obstacle. For anyone to have a hope of improving the comic market and introducing new opportunities, they need another route, and we can make one. The Comic Shop List is a decentralized modular ordering system that puts all the control in the hands of store owners, while exposing them to absolutely zero financial risk. It's so simple, not even Google can censor it. The Comic Shop List will give retailers unlimited access to anything the crowdfunding and indie market produces, without any need to gamble upfront on purchases and without any draconian order minimums or other penalties that they've probably grown accustomed to under Diamond. And how difficult exactly would it be to implement this Comic Shop List? What do comic creators have to do? Alright, here we go. To jump in, all a creator needs to do is fill out a universal, easy-to-use, one-page template. Put your book's cover art on there, include a promotional blurb, and add your pricing details. Boom. You've just created a printable pre-order sheet for your book, including slots where customers can sign up. Now stores, you do have to risk a little something. You're going to have to buy a 3-ring binder. Maybe even a nice one. Stores will print off any comic shop list sheets that they like and clip them into their store's binder. Then, you just talk with your customers and start selling pre-orders. Every store can decide for themselves how many pre-orders are needed to make an order worth their time and effort. Just like that, comic shops can offer their customers everything with $0 at risk and without sacrificing any shelf space. Is this idea basic? Yes. Are there details to iron out? Oh yeah, sure. Should we try? Well, imagine if the comic shop list caught on. Customers could walk into their shop and be the first to submit a comic shop listing for their latest Kickstarter discovery. The store owner could engage with his regulars and show them what everyone else is signing up for. Readers who want a particular title would have an incentive to bring their friends in to reach that pre-order threshold. Store customers would be transformed into an army of talent scouts, with a stake in the performance of their local shop. Face-to-face contact, incentivized outreach, engagement between the clerks and the customers. It is precisely this kind of interaction that a physical location can do better than a website. The comic shop list amplifies the inherent strengths of a brick-and-mortar storefront. One drawback is potentially that the idea catches on big time, and store owners are making hundreds of sales and juggling orders from hundreds of different individual creators. While I do like the idea of a decentralized system on principle, that scenario could pose a logistical challenge for stores. So, what if a distribution company emerged within this system to help filter the available content and create a central entity for retailers to more easily interface with? As it so happens, Chad of the Comics Are Cool podcast is in the process of developing just such a distribution company. It's been in the works for a few months now, but the time is right to bring you guys into the loop. Because for this invasion to work, it's going to take more than just me tilting at windmills out front. It's going to take you and your allies to lend force to the maneuver. And if we can make it work, finally, after decades, comic shops will have a lifeline bypassing Diamond, and we'll be staring at a bright field of new opportunities. A glorious future, where it doesn't matter so much if Marvel sucks balls. Maybe comics can be geared towards what readers want. Again, maybe stores can benefit from the new generation of readers, and maybe culture can have some fresh voices in it causing a stir, and maybe we can all have a hell of a lot more fun in a future like that. So let's do it. Here's the plan and what you can do to participate today. Chad is building the infrastructure for this distribution company now, and I'm prepping the comic shop list template for public access. We need 2 things from you. First off, the absolute best content. Who are the top webcomic creators, the best indie authors, the most renowned names in the crowdfunding market? Whose work, above all else, deserves to be in comic shops? Give me your personal top 10 list. I want tons of top 10 lists in the comments to this video with links so we can get in touch and make those creators an offer. Now, a couple of quick guidelines for your top 10 list. 1, don't list my comic Dreamkeepers. That's not fair. I'm looking for other additional comics. 2, the creators on your list must have an actual physical book available to sell, because that's going to be our next step. Once we load up our cannons with inventory, we'll be testing out the comic shop list with a bold comic shop or 2. So, at that point, we need to ensure that our test shop gets absolutely plowed with a stampede of new customers, or at least enough customers to show other stores that watering this seed is worth it. That'll be our make or break chance for this particular idea. We'll be calling on all creators to mobilize their audiences, tapping readers to drive business to these test stores, and directing everyone to signal boost like the future of the comic market depends on it. Because it might. And obviously, we can't rely on the comic book media to cover any of this. Those clueless saps are busy blathering about the casting decisions for the next Hollywood flop. If we want this to work, it's up to us. So mobilize your resources. Castalia House, consider giving us some ink. Diversity in comics? We'd love to know your take on this idea. Listeners, contact your favorite comic book YouTuber or blogger, your favorite webcomic author, your friends, anyone in the comic world who should join this coalition. Because coalition it must be. We need all hands on deck. If we pull together, we can take a piece of this market, save some comic shops, break the corporate stranglehold on pop culture, and put consumers back in charge at long last. Take control. This is your market. It's time to invade it. Hit us with your top 10 list in the comments and spread the word.